Richard will be giving us an overview of knowledge management and its diffusion in the PM group.
Good morning. My name is Richard Doyle and I'm with PM. And what I'm going to take you through, I suppose, is knowledge management. I described it earlier as kind of knowledge management in the trenches, but knowledge management in the context of an engineering, architectural, project and construction management firm. I want to go through some background on PM first, show you where we came from, issues we faced due to growth and internationalisation, which is a hot topic at the moment, why information and knowledge management is so important for us, and some recent projects. Just some background first. One of the largest AE design and project management firms in Europe. The Swedish Institute of Engineers and Architects have recently issued a report that puts us at number 54 in Europe. We have about 1,700 people. Gross revenue in 2009 is 260 million. As you can see, we have a variety of sectors. We'll be a full service company. We'll take a project from greenfield, from master planning, concept, right through to hand over the keys. So we'll go right through design, construction, commissioning, qualification. Established in '73 here in Dublin. Private company and employee owned. So founded in '73. If you look at, say, 1996 there along the bar, you'll see that was our first real international expansion. We opened an office, and from memory that was in Coventry at the time. Then entered into Poland, Wrocław and Warsaw in the late 90s. And moving along, you can see we entered the Asian market in 2005. We've since opened offices in Singapore. And further along, you'll see we've opened offices in Sweden, India and Abu Dhabi. And in 2011, we expect to open an office in Shanghai. We're currently in the process of applying for licenses. And an office in Prague will be opened in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. So you can see the way we grew or developed internationally, opening offices in key locations that we would have done a fair bit of research on initially. In addition to that, we had a number of acquisitions. You can see Devro Architects there towards the right, UK-based architectural firm. We also took on another architectural firm in 2009 and merged them into Devro. And if you look at 2010, you'll see PM Green. That's about a 30-person engineering firm based in San Jose in the States. So we started out as an Irish-centric firm, moved in internationally, but as you can imagine, with the crash that happened, we were forced to actually expand and I suppose bring the internationalisation track, bring it forward in much faster fashion. One of the things we noticed about doing work internationally is you have to have alliance partners. You can't go into certain countries and set up organically. Working in certain jurisdictions, you have to be able to work with a local alliance partner because of local codes. You might have to have a registered architect or that type of thing from a local requirements perspective. So alliance partners, acquisitions, key to our international growth. I suppose just to put it in a fairly simple map, I'm not sure how many dots there are there, but at the moment in terms of, if we just take talking to our IT guys, computers, laptops and PCs, we have about 1,500 across the group in about 37 locations. So geographically we're very spread. Some of these sites might have 2 or 3 people. We've had about, I think, a team of about 4 down in the Caribbean working on a rum plant to sort of hundreds of people on another site. So scale varies. In Iceland there we have 2 people on a project working for Rio Tinto. So internationalisation, acquisitions, growth, geographically spread, these are all issues we were dealing with. From a financial perspective, you can see again a fairly rapid commercial financial growth over the years. The 2010 figures obviously will be, hardly surprisingly, will be down on the 2009. Thankfully not as much as we originally expected, but they will be down. And 3/4 of our business comes from the pharmaceutical, medtech and food sectors. Depending on any particular time, the actual mix of projects can vary. One of our senior project managers in the audience there, Keith, was leading a project on the Corrib field for us, so at one time energy would have been a bigger percentage. So it varies, but predominantly life sciences and food tend to be the two major sectors. And if I think back to, I suppose, the work that we used to do in Ireland, at one stage 90% of our work would have been in Ireland, 10% abroad. And looking back to 2008, over 70% of our work was in Ireland. In 2009, 52% of our work was in Ireland. I would suspect that in 2010 we're in the 40%. I would expect in 2011 we could be below the 40%. So you can see the way that the work has moved abroad. And one of the, I suppose, the strategies of PM over the years has been to follow our clients abroad. We get engaged with them, we do a good job, we find out where their next job is and we say we can do it. Simple, in some ways. Of course, there are a lot of issues. Back in 2005, we kind of stood back and we did a review of our systems. We identified a fair few gaps. We'd outgrown a number of our systems. Our management and our information systems in the early days were developed in-house. They were developed for an Irish-centric small business. That was the hard part. The good news was we outgrew them. We also knew that as we became more internationalised, the problems would get worse. Our business model was changing. And we knew that we'd underinvested in previous years. Of course, when you move from being an Irish business to an international business, it brings a whole set of new challenges. Language. You have to have the language to work in certain countries. You can do projects pretty much, say, in Holland, there through English. Germany, you can't. Culture is a big issue. Technical codes vary from country to country. Like if you think we're doing work in Malaysia at the moment, they're different to the Euro codes. How do you get your people trained up on the codes? Alliance partners work different ways in different countries. Simple little thing like time zone issues. We're working on a project at the moment that's in Malaysia. It involves our office in India, Singapore and Dublin. You've got time zone issues. How do you do design coordination meetings? Work share is increasing across PM. We're facing in, because of the nature of business now, clients are much more careful about how they spend money and where they spend it. Fees are becoming much tighter. Work share increases the pressure on the design teams and increases your costs. Work share is a big issue for us. And at the end of the day, we have to realise we're not a manufacturing company, we're actually in the people business. And in terms of systems and information, our actual user profile has changed dramatically in recent years. And we're becoming a network of people in a network of offices. And what I mean by that is, we could get a project, say a concept design, and we could draw experts from the Dublin office, from Singapore and from Rugby. And we need to connect those people. So at the end of the day, we're in the people business and we have to just realise that. And we have to operate as a network of people within a network of offices and not get hung up on where people physically are. And if you saw our flight bill, you'd kind of get a feel for what I'm talking about. In terms of user profile, the global engineer, access to project and technical information anytime, anywhere. You have the roaming traveller, you have people engineering on the go, the mobile expert. We didn't have integrated solutions, now we pretty much have. The self-served employee, what you need, when you need it, where you need it. Again, bearing in mind time zones can be a big issue. So what we're heading towards is global engineering. And we need basically to deliver services, tools and information to our people so that they can deliver projects to our clients, regardless of location. So that's kind of just the background to PM and the situation that we were in. If you look at the line or the section really here that's underlined in terms of knowledge management, for us being in the people business, we have an awful lot of knowledge embodied in individuals, in our people, and embedded in our organisational processes and practices. And I think that's been touched on already. But the questions for us, I suppose, over the recent years is like, who do you ask for information? Like, as I said, we've 1,700 people. We've 20 odd offices. We've quite a number of site offices. And if you have an individual, I suppose, if you look at the top left there, if you have an individual who's got a problem, how does he know who to ask for information? I'm pretty sure that because of the scale and size and the experts that we have, I know somebody in PM has the solution, but it's a case of how do you make the connection? I remember in the early days of PM, it was a challenge when we moved from all being on one floor to being on 2 floors. And you're saying, well, Jesus, your man's upstairs, how do I connect with him? Now we're trying to connect with people on different continents and different countries. It's trying to figure out how do we know what we actually know as an organisation? Where do you keep the information? How do you use it? How do you share it? And the real challenges for us were, I think, connecting people. We know we have the knowledge, but being in the people business, connecting people is key for us. Obviously, how you share knowledge and your systems. And the other thing is, we have different internal customer groups, and the term is used early, community of practice. So our financial people need different information and knowledge to our engineering people, to our legal people, to our operations people. So from a knowledge point of view in PM, we have different customer groups and we have different communities of practice. So again, jumping back, I suppose, to 2005, we identified the areas that we needed to address. As we opened new offices, as we started to take on acquisitions, they all had their own management and information systems. We didn't have a single document management system in PM. We had different HR systems. We had no CRM system. We had a variety of payroll systems. So we had to bring it all together. And what I want to talk just briefly, I'm going to go through probably one slide on each of a number of these. I'm not going to cover our 3D design capability, but suffice to say we have a very extensive 3D design capability. The annual bill is frightening, but we have been using it, I suppose, over the last, since probably about '98, when we did some projects in Cork. We're at the scale now where we can do 250, 300 million biotech pharma plant from greenfield to close out fully integrated 3D design. Using the Intergraph Smart Plan tools. And that, as any of you who are involved in 3D will know, you do it a different way to a 2D job. And that's a whole, we could do a presentation on that in its own right, but it's a whole different kind of knowledge base. So briefly, I'm just going to talk about the project documentation system and what we call the PSA, and then the knowledge base. And the PSA was the Professional Services Automation System. So we basically got away from having silos of information from financial, from accounting, from HR and from CRM, and basically brought it all together under one integrated system. The backbone was the Aggresso Project and Information System and Accounting System, Ernie is Payroll, Visual is HR, and an in-house developed CRM system. We embarked on another project for an enterprise-wide electronic document management system, which we got from Software Innovation, a Norwegian firm. It came out of the oil and gas industry, so it was designed for engineering firms. If you look at the investment there, we spent 3.4 million, so it didn't come cheap. I can honestly say if we didn't have these systems, the company wouldn't be where it is today. We couldn't do business today without these systems. So thankfully the senior guys had the foresight and the confidence in the people and the group to push ahead and invest. I'd like to say the PSA system is finished, but as we keep opening offices, we keep having to develop it further. We have to deal with other issues in terms of currencies and languages. So, just a few slides. Our electronic document management system, it's enterprise-wide. If you're in the office, people have full access. We can access it over Citrix. We've introduced standardized project workflows, version control, online approval of deliverables. We would regularly have people approving deliverables in airports. But one of the key things about this system is it has a very, very powerful search capability. It'll go down to word level in documents. And we have archives set up for all our different offices and jurisdictions. So because it has such a very powerful search capability, it's actually a knowledge base, but for a particular community in PM. So our engineers, our project managers will use this system predominantly. Our integrated management information and accounting system. We now have one financial system. We have very powerful reporting. It's much better, as I call it, slicing and dicing of information. The data that goes into this system in terms of man hours and costs for each project is exactly the same data that we used to put into the old system. But we can get far more information out of this. We can slice and dice it completely differently. We can cut it by region, by sector, by service, by project manager. We can get far richer information now out of this. And everybody across the PM group is now looking at information in the same way. It's the same information. We don't have one office costing jobs in one way and a different office costing them a different way. Again, very conscious of it, the internationalisation of PM. So we have a system now that deals with, I think it's 18 languages from memory. Unfortunately, we are opening some offices which it doesn't cover those languages, but such is life. This again is a huge knowledge and information base for a different community of people, our project managers, our account managers, our project sponsors, our financial people. Huge information in here. Again, a different community. As part of the PSA, we developed a customer relationship management system, something we never had before. We went out and looked at various systems and we didn't really like what we saw. It didn't do what we wanted. We wrote a spec internally and it was developed on SharePoint. If you look at the top left there, you'll see we've kind of two main focuses, customers and marketing. So we have a central repository for customer information, for market research, proposals, capability statements and brochures. We're looking at entering new markets. We are investigating German-speaking Europe at the moment. So we have a section in here where we will put all the market research material. This is another knowledge base, and again, for a different community of people. So our business development people, our project sponsors, if we have project managers who are bidding on work for a particular client, we know where the proposal is for the previous project for that client. So we're starting to build up not quite template proposals, but we're heading in that direction. Our quality management system is not entirely based on flowchart, but predominantly. And I'm not sure if it's kind of legible along the left there, but each of these is effectively a section and it covers a function or a department in PM, so mechanical, process, architectural. And these flowcharts have been developed by the people in PM for PM. So all of the knowledge of the people that went into developing these flowcharts is embedded in these. The experience, the knowledge, the insights, it's embedded in these flowcharts. This particular one is for the under mechanical for pipe stress analysis. And simply the way it works is that the main activities are the centre spine. The left-hand side is the inputs and the right-hand side is outputs, broadly speaking. So they describe our processes, they have embedded knowledge, and they explain what we do and how we do it. Not only internally, but it's very powerful for new people. It's actually very powerful for winning work, believe it or not. And if we bring in new people of a particular discipline, say mechanical, and they want to see how our electrical discipline works, they can go here and look. Now, it doesn't mean we're restricted to following these by the letter, but broadly speaking we do, and they're tried and tested. Again, as part of the PSA, we developed a HR site. Very secure. Our HR people are the only people who have access to the back end. But there's elements here that is open to the individual in terms of self-service. We would put in information, people can change information on their addresses or bank details. We're putting online appraisals, requests for holidays. New start in PM, a new hire, it gets approved online here. And once it's sanctioned, then automatically information gets fed out to our facilities and our IT groups. So IT know that a guy needs a laptop, he needs CAD, he needs Microsoft Project, he needs whatever. Facilities know he needs a desk in this office on that date. And one of the other useful facilities is then what up on the right where the arrow is, it's called the employee list, but basically it's a people finder. So if you want to find the contact details of anybody in PM, type in a first or a second name and you'll pick it up. When we started to roll this out, we got people to fill in certain personal details, and it became very useful recently. I have a number of different roles, but I would support operations in Western Europe as well, and I needed a project manager who spoke German. So I was able to get a list pulled from HR, who gave me a list of our German-speaking resources. And to my surprise, I found a very good, strong project manager out of Dublin who had fluent German, and I never knew he spoke German. And he fitted straight away into a project that we've now won in, I won't say where, but in Germany. I think, Keith, you might correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the mid-90s we developed this knowledge management system?
Would have been, yes.
In around then. Yeah. Again, we have a huge amount of embedded knowledge in here. What it contains is articles written by PM people. So again, their experience, their insight, written down and put into the system. Excellent system. One of the more difficult things was, and I think Brian touched on it, was getting very busy people to write articles. It's a chore. That was something that we're still trying to figure out how to deal with. The technology on this system, I suppose, is old hat these days. When articles get written, they basically have to be sent to one or two people either in Cork or Dublin, and they get published on the system. So it's kind of old technology, bearing in mind what's going on in the environment today. But a very, very powerful system that is still used. And Keith mentioned earlier that if somebody's looking for something, quite a few people will go, particularly the younger people haven't been in PM that long, will go to the knowledge management system. If you're there longer and you know your way around PM and you know somebody who has the information, generally speaking, people pick up the phone. So people will seek out knowledge different ways, and that's something else that we have to try and cater for. Someone mentioned the term Wiki earlier. We've developed an in-house Wiki. As you can see on the left, there's quite a few topic areas. Each of the topic area has an owner. These are all communities of practice for technical collaboration, knowledge sharing, a huge knowledge store. One of the differences between this and, say, our other knowledge system is that we have not only PM information in here, but we would have third-party information. One of the particular headings is operational excellence, and you can see we have everything from past project examples, information and operational excellence consultants if we want to work with them. We have training material. So a wide range of topics, and this is something that we're going to develop. I'd say we have this maybe 18 months. At the moment, a core group have access to it. The team owns the site, decides on what's appropriate. This basically was a group of people who got together and said, this is what we need, and we basically funded it. We're planning further development to widen out the access, and I think made the front end a bit more user-friendly. But if I was to look at knowledge management in a couple of years out in PM, I think this will have a core place in it. And finally, where are we now? I think with the investment that we put in our document management system, in the various modules under the PSA, looking at the Wiki site, we have a very good foundation in place. We're keeping pace with the growth of the company. Not so much growing in terms of revenue, because you seeing what's happening in the market at the moment, but to get work we have to move abroad. So in the context of being able to provide information on a solid, secure system to all our people in 37 plus locations across the world, across time zones, we're keeping pace with that. And that's a bit of a challenge at the moment. We're coming to terms with the concept of a network of people in a network of offices. But we're by no means finished. And I think that the areas that we really have to focus on now is linking information. We're trying to link information out of our financial and accounting system and our CRM system. Connecting people is going to be a huge thing for us. So as I described it there in the last line, we have a lot more work to do in joining the dots. Thank you.
Thank you very much.